Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, the Fanciest Man of Cornwood, and today we will be looking at one of my favorite commanders to brew with, Rocco Cabaretti Caterer. Rocco is a 3/1 legendary creature, elf druid, for X red, green, and white. And when Rocco enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So, why is Rocco so great? Well, flexibility. Not only does Rocco have a baseline of being a 3-color toolbox sitting in your command zone, but Rocco also has the distinction of being an incredible option for running a secret commander, which is exactly what we will be doing today. This deck gives Marvin Murderous Mimic tons of nigh goodness to copy, with goblins running wild, powerful ramp pieces and enough protection and interaction to make even the blue players blush. This is the strategy in a nutshell. We want to get some form of protection for Marvin in place, which will also help us reuse Rocco's ability, and then double up on ramp and powerful token creation abilities with Marvin to knock out our opponents. Let's take a look at what types of ability Marvin will have at his disposal by highlighting a few of them, starting with Hansk, Slayer Zealot. Hansk is a 4/4 legendary creature human archer. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent creates 3 walker tokens. Those are 2/2 black zombie creatures. Hansk can tap to deal 2 damage to target creature, and whenever a zombie and opponent control dies, draw a card. He costs 2, a green, and a red. So with Marvin out, this is basically going to be just a draw 2 cards every turn piece on the battlefield. And then it also gives us some options to play politics and maybe help a player out that's falling behind so that they can help us out later. Godsire, which is an 8/8 creature beast for 4 red, green, green, and a white, has vigilance and can tap to put an 8/8 beast creature token into play that's red, green, and white. This gives us massive board presence with Marvin doubling the output. Rocco is a fantastic tribal commander for goblins, strangely. As strange as it sounds, being able to add 2 colors on top of red along with tutoring for whichever tool is needed to help us fill our board with goblins and pump them for lethal actually makes this elf practically a goblin whisperer. When we're running all sorts of synergistic goblins, including the 2 in the middle of your screen, which together can let us dump a big batch of goblins onto the battlefield. And the 2 I've highlighted here are Goblin Recruiter. This is a 1/1 creature goblin for 1 generic and a red. And when Goblin Recruiter comes into play, search your library for any number of goblin cards and reveal them to all players. Shuffle your library, then put the revealed cards on top of it in any order. And then to pair with that, we have Muxus Goblin Grandee for 4 generic and 2 red. We get a 4/4 legendary creature Goblin Noble. When Muxus enters the battlefield, reveal the top 6 cards of your library, put all goblin creatures with converted mana cost 5 or less from among them onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And whenever Muxus attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each goblin you control. So this is going to allow us to just put our best goblins on the top of our deck, and then hopefully we'll have Muxus searched up as well, and we can go ahead and dump those onto the battlefield in one fell swoop. Alright, one potential big issue for the deck is losing Marvin. Since he's not actually our commander, we're not guaranteed to get him back. And while Green has plenty of ways to get cards out of our graveyard, Marvin getting exiled is pretty rough. To keep that from happening and to let us use Rocco's ability multiple times, we're running a suite of cards to bounce him back to our hand at instant speed. And I've highlighted a couple of those here. The first one is Erratic Portal. This is an artifact for 4 mana. For 1 generic and tapping it, you can return target creature to owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. Obviously, we can use this against tapped out opponents, but more likely we're going to use it on our own creatures to keep them safe and just not pay the 1. We also have Teamer Sabertooth for 2 generic and 2 green. This is a 4/3 creature cat. And for 1 generic and a green, you may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Teamer Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. So obviously with Marvin out, this is not just a way to reuse enter the battlefield effects like Rocco, but it's also potentially protection for Marvin to give him indestructible until the end of a turn. So One of the most interesting parts of Marvin's text box is, ironically, a few missing words. In the past, when we've seen the ability to copy activated abilities, there is typically an exception, that being for mana abilities. While this is likely to avoid infinite mana loops, we will gladly benefit by running a bunch of creatures that tap for more than 1 mana for Marvin to copy, and I've highlighted a few of those here. First is Feyburrow Elder for 1, a green and a white. We get a 0/0 creature Treefolk Druid with Vigilance, and Feyburrow Elder gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents we control, and then can tap to add 1 mana of each color among permanents we control. So obviously, with Marvin out, this is six mana's worth of ramp between 2 creatures, and most likely, we've paid maybe 8 mana total for that. So if we have any haste enablers out, that seems like a pretty good deal to me. And then second, I've also highlighted Not Vine Mystic. This costs the Naya colors, so red, green, and white. It is a 2/2 creature elf druid, and for 1 generic and tapping it, we can add those Naya colors to our mana pool. So again, just another way for Marvin to help us ramp if he's on the battlefield. And if he's not, then these are just relatively powerful ramp options in and of themselves. So that is the deck, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe if you like the content. We did have a request on my last video for a specific deck tech, and so I will be getting that deck tech out this week. If there's a deck you'd like to see, or if you have any suggestions for this commander, of course, feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you think. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and keep playing Commander.